An ordinary woman is humiliated and criticized for her appearance after being expelled from a prestigious resort. The haughty manager is unaware that their ideal retaliation is already underway and that her millionaire husband's yacht will arrive in 2 hours. Grace Sterling entered the Peninsula Resort's marble floors. Her modest beige outfit stood out against the lavish decor and sparkling chandeliers all around her. As she watched the other guests in their expensive clothing and dazzling jewelry, she tucked a lock of brown hair behind her ear. Grace had come directly to the resort to check on the arrangements for tonight's gala after a half-hour trip from the local boutique, where she had been assessing items for her foundation's auction. Like when she organized charity events in her grandmother's basement years ago, she preferred to manage these details herself. She remarked, "I'm here to check on the arrangements for tonight," to the receptionist, whose smile wavered when she saw how modest Grace looked. "Are you employed by one of our visitors?" With a whispery voice, the young woman asked. Grace smiled softly. "No, I'm going to the Sterling Foundation Reservation Charity Gala this evening." The receptionist furrowed her brow as her fingers clattered over the computer. "Your name is not visible to me here. Are you a foundation employee?" "I'm the founder, actually," Grace said coolly. "William, my spouse, ought to have called in advance. He's arriving by yacht later." Overhearing the conversation, a man in a spotless suit came over. A tight smile that stopped short of his eyes flashed across his face. "The general manager is me, Bernard Phillips. Is something wrong here?" His gold name tag gleamed as he leaned forward. As Bernard examined Grace from head to toe, the receptionist leaned in and said something that caused his eyebrows to shoot forward. "This is a private resort, ma'am. The banquet for the Sterling Foundation is a distinguished occasion. Maybe there was some misunderstanding?" Grace didn't lose her cool. "No misunderstanding exists. My name is Grace Sterling, and so is my spouse." She was interrupted by Bernard's laugh. "I'm sorry. William Sterling is the spouse of Mrs. Sterling, a well-known philanthropist. She wouldn't be showing up alone and in that attire." He gestured toward her plain clothing. "I have identification," Grace said, grabbing her handbag. Bernard dismissively waved his hand. "Please, anyone can print a phony ID these days." Bernard sent a silent signal, and 2 security officers appeared. Nearby visitors began to stare, some muttering behind manicured palms. "Don't make this hard, please," Bernard added. "We cannot allow anyone to enter and claim to be a significant visitor." Grace saw a woman in a white blazer covertly filming the event with her phone. Excellent. Word would get around fast. With a firm voice, Grace responded, "I understand. May I at least use your restroom before I leave?" After hesitating, Bernard gave a curt nod. "Hurry up." Grace heard him giving the security officers instructions as she made her way to the ladies' room. "Verify that she truly departs. These kinds of gold diggers are tenacious." Grace took out her phone and shut herself in a stall in the opulent marble restroom. There was nobody else. She composed a quick note to William's executive assistant, Diane. 2 hours to code Cinderella at Peninsula Resort. A few seconds later, the answer was given. "I get it. Establishing the protocol." Grinning, Grace put the phone back in her purse. After being fired for the 3rd time due to her unassuming appearance, she and William came up with this system. Grace chose to let things unfold organically, rather than use her reputation or fortune to fight these issues. The lessons taught tended to stick better that way. Exiting the bathroom, she spotted the 2 security guards waiting, arms crossed. The taller one said, "Ms. whatever your name actually is, we have been asked by Mr. Phillips to take you off the property right away." "Naturally," Grace quietly answered. Bernard emerged from behind the front desk to see her leave as they passed through the opulent lobby. His eyes shone with contentment. The sight of a plain woman in a beige outfit being escorted out by security caused everyone to turn and gaze. Bernard screamed after her loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Perhaps you'll book a reservation under your own name the next time. The Sterling Gala is only held because Mr. Sterling is a loyal customer." His wife is renowned for having impeccable taste, which is obviously not a quality shared by everyone. A few visitors gave sycophantic laughs. As they got closer to the elaborate front doors, Grace remained silent and held her head high. She said, "I'll make sure to tell my husband about your hospitality." Bernard laughed. "Yes, I'm sure he'll be extremely amazed with your imagination, albeit I doubt he exists, much like your alleged tie to the Sterlings." They reached the entryway, and one of the guards waved toward the taxi line. "Need us to call you a cab?" he said, sounding as though she was unable to pay for one. "No," Grace said. "Thank you. I'll get by." She heard Bernard's last remark as she stepped out into the warm beach air. "Additionally, don't consider trying to enter the gala this evening covertly. Your picture will be displayed at each entry." With a gentle, pricey thud, the doors shut behind her. Grace strolled unhurriedly down the curved driveway, feeling the stares of the resort workers on her back. Upon arriving at the street, she made a left turn and proceeded along the promenade that ran parallel to the resort grounds. The ideal viewing point was a peaceful cafe overlooking the bay, where she ordered an iced tea. She checked her watch, a simple device that had belonged to her father, and determined that she had 1 hour and 40 minutes left. Diane's message chimed on her phone. "William is enraged. The package will arrive in 20 inches with an ETA of 100 minutes. While sipping her tea, Grace observed seagulls circling above the ocean. She wasn't angry. She'd faced harsher racism in her life. She had taken on several jobs before meeting William in order to pay for her education. She had experienced numerous instances of being disregarded, ignored, and undervalued. Grace had turned down William's offer to ensure that everyone understood who she was in order to end these occurrences. She had told him that people who make snap judgments deserve to be surprised when they discover the truth. An exquisite black automobile came up in front of the cafe exactly 19 minutes later. The woman in the driver's uniform came out and looked around the patio until she saw Grace. "Mrs. Sterling?" she said softly as she walked over to the table. "Yes, Maria. Thank you for coming so promptly." Beside Grace's chair, Maria set a tiny suitcase and a garment bag. "You badly required these, according to Ms. Diane. Is everything okay?" Grace smiled and said, "Just a little misunderstanding that will work itself out soon." "Do you want to have a drink?" "No, ma'am, thank you. I should return." When Mr. Sterling called, he was very adamant. Grace gave a knowing nod. Though he never aimed it at her or their employees, William's fury was renowned in the business world. "Then I'll see you later." Grace took her gifts to the cafe's restroom after Maria left. She came out changed after 15 minutes. An exquisite cream designer outfit had taken the place of her plain beige dress. Previously pulled back, her hair now cascaded softly around her shoulders. Her neck was ornamented with a lovely diamond necklace that William had given her as a first anniversary present. She strolled back toward the promenade after paying her bill and leaving a big tip. She saw that people's responses had entirely changed as she walked by stores and eateries. She was no longer invisible. Instead, she was met with respectful nods and admiring looks. It was time for the next part of their plan, and Grace looked at her watch once more, little over an hour before William arrived. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. "It's Grace Sterling." "Hi, Carter." "Yes, thank you, I am. Listen, I have a minor favor to ask of you in relation to the gala tonight." The resort's owner, Carter Jackson, was a longtime friend of William's. He was now in Europe, leaving Bernard and other management in charge of day-to-day operations. Grace gave a succinct explanation, being cautious to stress that she didn't want Bernard fired and that he had only learned an important lesson. "Are you certain?" Carter laughed and asked. "In an hour, I could have him packing his bags." "No, that won't be necessary. William and I have more in mind. Something educational. You two have always had a penchant for the dramatic, though. Think of it as finished. To get Bernard ready for William's arrival, I'll give him a call myself. Of course I won't mention you." "Excellent. Thank you, Carter." After hanging up, Grace strolled along the shoreline, tracing the bend that would ultimately return her to the resort's private beach. She would have the ideal view of the harbor from there, where William's yacht would arrive. William texted her, and her phone buzzed. Nearly there. Are you all right? Grinning, she typed back. Never better. Bernard doesn't know what's going to happen. As William answered, she could practically see his smile. Excellent. The Odyssey is prepared for a spectacular arrival. I adore you. After putting her phone aside, Grace resumed her leisurely walk. Everything was coming together. All she needed to do now was wait for the right opportunity to return to the peninsula as Grace Sterling, ready to give a masterclass in humility to those who most needed it, rather than as the unassuming woman who had been dragged out. Bernard Phillips was enjoying the afternoon he had anticipated for back at the Peninsula Resort. He had personally examined the ballroom setup for the evening's event after he had successfully removed the imposter posing as Grace Sterling. When the real William and Grace Sterling showed there, did everything have to be flawless? Phillips, Mr. He was adjusting a centerpiece when the receptionist's voice interrupted him. You're on line 1 for a call. Mr. Jackson is here. Bernard's back tensed. The resort's millionaire owner, Carter Jackson, hardly ever called the establishment directly. He walked across the ballroom with confidence and said, I'll take it in my office. He took a moment to gather himself behind his desk and then picked up the phone. And what a welcome surprise, Mr. Jackson. Bernard. Carter's voice sounded uncharacteristically somber. I recently learned some alarming information. Within an hour, the Odyssey, owned by William Sterling, will arrive at our marina. You must personally see to it that everything is prepared for his arrival. Bernard blushed with pride. An important mission was entrusted to him. Naturally, sir. When the Sterling arrives for the gala tonight, we're ready. According to Carter, this is different. William is not pleased with his early arrival. A miscommunication at the resort today, perhaps? Bernard's face drained of blood. A miscommunication? He made a reference to his wife, but he didn't elaborate. I thought you would understand what he meant. Bernard's thoughts whirled. The lady he'd taken out? Was she telling the truth, or what? A woman previously claimed to be Mrs. Sterling, but she didn't resemble the pictures in our system at all, sir. She wore pretty basic clothing, not at all what you would anticipate. Before Carter spoke again, there was an uncomfortable pause on the other end of the telephone. Have you ever had the opportunity to meet Grace Sterling in person, Bernard? No, but Grace's appreciation of confidentiality and seclusion is one of the reasons the Sterlings choose our resort for their foundation events. Social media and social media pages don't appeal to her. But the picture in our system is probably old or from a rare public appearance, Carter said, interrupting Bernard as the first shivers of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Bernard, listen closely. Worth more than our entire resort, William Sterling's 300-foot floating luxury yacht is on its way to us with a very irate millionaire aboard. Bernard's hands were shaking when he hung up. He hurried to his computer and looked for pictures of William Sterling, and he found many of the business magnate at different occasions. However, as Carter had mentioned, there were very few photos of Grace Sterling. He saw a striking woman who cautiously avoided the camera, frequently moving her head or standing partially concealed in the few pictures he could locate. Without the high-end clothing and expert style, he hadn't connected the dots between her and the woman from earlier today, despite their comparable features. With terror mounting in his throat, he murmured, "Oh God." He buzzed the reception area. "Please provide me with details about William Sterling's yacht right away." A printout of the Odyssey, one of the most famous super yachts in the world, was in front of him a few minutes later. It was built just for Sterling 4 years ago and had several decks, a helipad, and space for 28 crew members and 24 guests. The vessel monitoring information indicated that it was in fact getting close to their marina. Bernard convened a staff emergency meeting in the lobby without delay. He told the gathered staff to pay close attention. Earlier today, we might have made a serious mistake. It's possible that the woman who made the accusation was Grace Sterling. There were murmurs among the gathering. We have to be ready since William Sterling's yacht will dock in an hour. Sarah, call the marina right away. Get the red carpet ready, Michael. Jennifer, drinks at the dock. Champagne. Bernard went outdoors to look at the horizon as the employees dispersed to their jobs. He could just make out the outline of a huge yacht coming along the shore in the distance. Its size was impressive even at this distance. The marina manager's phone rang. "You'd better come down here, Mr. Phillips. The Odyssey has asked to be docked with priority. In half an hour they will arrive." Bernard inhaled deeply and fixed his tie. "Okay, I'll be right over." Unless he could locate the billionaire's wife first and somehow make amends, he would have to confront William Sterling directly and attempt to explain why he had ejected her from their resort. With undeniable majesty, the Odyssey approached. The custom-built yacht, with its immaculate white hull shining in the midday light, overshadowed everything else in the marina at 300 feet. There had been a crowd when it arrived. Locals, employees, and visitors to the resort congregated to watch the show. With a welcoming party gathered behind him, Bernard stood at the end of the dock. A red carpet had been hurriedly laid out, champagne was in ice buckets, and all of the staff members were called in. To please the Sterling family, he had even ordered the removal of the resort's famous floral displays. As the gigantic vessel completed its docking procedures, Bernard couldn't help but compute the cost of the boat, easily north of $150 million, more than enough to buy the entire resort several times over. A single phone call from the man he would have to temporarily confront may destroy his career. The gangway of the yacht stretched smoothly out to the dock. Despite the unexpected tightness of his collar against his throat, Bernard faked a smile. The top of the gangway was William Sterling. With his impeccable silver blonde hair and well-tailored blue suit, he was tall, elegant, and radiated the quiet confidence that accompanies exceptional wealth and power. He lowered himself toward the welcome party, his face inscrutable. Bernard took a step forward and held out his hand. "Welcome to the peninsula, Mr. Sterling. The general manager is me, Bernard Phillips. It's a privilege to—" William ignored him as he passed by, his gaze darting among the throng as though seeking someone. The employees looked at each other anxiously. Bernard made another attempt, racing to catch up with the billionaire's great strides, Mr. Sterling. "There appears to have been a miscommunication earlier today." William came to a sudden halt and looked at Bernard with icy blue eyes. "A miscommunication," he reiterated, his tone low but with a hint of grit. "Do you mean having my wife escorted off the property and humiliating her?" The murmurs in the crowd became more intense. Several guests who had observed Grace's expulsion earlier now watched wide-eyed, connecting the dots. Bernard said, his voice growing panicked, "Sir, I can explain." William said, "I'm sure you can," but not before turning and pointing to a person on the yacht. A figure emerged at the top of the gangway, and the throng fell silent. As she stood there, Grace Sterling had changed from the plain woman she had been to a picture of elegance. Her cream-colored designer dress caught the sunlight, and diamonds flashed around her throat and wrists. The crowd dispersed as she went down the gangway. Those who had watched her being kicked out hours before now gaped in shock. The woman they had seen written off as a nobody was coming back as a member of the royal family. She smiled and accepted William's hand as he held it out to her. They looked together at Bernard, whose face had lost all of its color. I cannot begin to express how deeply sorry I am," he began. "Mrs. Sterling." He was silenced when Grace held up a hand. She said, "Mr. Phillips," her voice clearly audible over the now quiet dock. "I think we need to get ready for a gala tonight. Shall we continue our talk inside?" She took command of the situation with that one sentence. She asserted her proper place calmly, without yelling, threats, or public humiliation. Suddenly, the throng of onlookers moved aside to make room for William and Grace as they approached the resort. Some even lowered their heads a little out of deference or shame at their previous actions. Bernard, left with little choice, trailed behind them, his career dangling by a string. Bernard's rehearsed confidence completely vanished when he stood in front of William and Grace Sterling in the resort's VIP club. "I sincerely apologize to Mr. and Mrs. Sterling for the unacceptable behavior Mrs. Sterling endured today. My actions have no justification." William's face remained grim, but Grace gave Bernard a careful examination. "You know Mr. Phillips," she said. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My mother worked as a waitress while my father was a mechanic. In order to pay for education, I worked 3 jobs. Bernard blinked, unsure of the direction of this. Before I knew William, I had saved only $5,000 and started the Sterling Foundation. We now raise millions of dollars a year to provide disadvantaged kids with access to education. She hesitated. Children who, like myself, may be evaluated more on the basis of appearance than on their ability or character. The connotation was obvious. Bernard's gaze dropped. To his surprise, Grace went on, "Mr. Phillips, I don't want you fired." It would be too simple. I have a suggestion instead. William grinned a little, anticipating the moment. For our mentorship program, our organization is looking for volunteers who are accomplished professionals who can educate young people about their fields. You'll commit to 1 year working with students from underprivileged backgrounds. Bernard gave a brief nod. Anything, of course, Mrs. Sterling. She also mentioned that a scholarship fund designated exclusively for students studying hospitality management from disadvantaged backgrounds will now be a part of tonight's gala. The first year will be funded by the Peninsula. Bernard realized there was no way around this. I'll get in touch with finance right away. Grace stood up. Excellent. We need to get ready for a gala, so pardon us now. William took his wife's hand as Bernard walked away. Masterfully handled, as always. Grace grinned. I hope he gained some knowledge today. William questioned about evaluating a book by its cover. In the end, humanity is more valuable than any yacht, Grace said. In a society that frequently evaluates people based on their outward appearance or material belongings, integrity and dignity can occasionally be the greatest assets. True class isn't about what you possess or wear, as Grace's story serves as a reminder. It has to do with how you treat other people. Have appearances ever caused you to be underestimated? Leave a comment below with your experiences. For more stirring tales that serve as a reminder of what really matters in life, please press the like button and subscribe to our channel if you liked this elegant narrative of justice. Where in the world are you viewing from? Tell us in the comments section.